Emma Carter was the kind of mother who noticed every little detail. Living in the quiet town of Brookfield, she prided herself on keeping a home where everything was neat, predictable, and under control. Her husband, Michael, was a stern but well-meaning man who worked long hours as a contractor. Their 11-year-old child, Daniel, was bright, sensitive, and always a little different from the other boys in the neighborhood. One evening, after a family dinner, Emma went upstairs to put away the laundry. While stacking folded shirts in Daniel's dresser, she spotted something odd. At the very bottom of the drawer, beneath the layers of t-shirts and socks, was one of her old scarves. A silky lavender scarf she hadn't worn in years. At first, Emma thought she must have misplaced it. But something nodded her. The scarf had been carefully folded, much too carefully for it to have fallen there by accident. A week later, she noticed another strange detail. One of her skirts, an old floral knee-length piece stored in a box in the attic, had been moved. She hadn't touched that box in months. Emma's first instinct was suspicion. Was someone sneaking into their home? Or was Daniel exploring something he didn't know how to talk about? Unsure what to think, she decided not to mention it to Michael. His patience for odd behavior was short, and Emma feared his reaction more than the mystery itself. Instead, she confided in her younger sister, Claire, a free-spirited artist who lived in the city. Claire listened, eyes wide with interest rather than judgment. "Emma," she said softly, "don't jump to conclusions. But if Daniel is experimenting, it's not about shame. It's about identity. He might not have the words yet, but he's trying to find himself." Emma wanted to believe that. Still, she couldn't ignore her curiosity or her growing worry. One Saturday afternoon, while Michael was at a job site, Emma decided to check the attic. She climbed the wooden ladder, dust swirling in the shafts of light. Pulling back the box with her old clothes, her heart raced. Inside, folded with meticulous care, were not only her skirt but also a faded blouse, a pair of stockings, and a pair of sandals that hadn't fit her in years. And tucked into the corner was something that made her stop cold. A small notebook with Daniel's handwriting. On the cover, written in pencil, "If I were a girl." Emma sat down on the wooden floor, trembling as she flipped the pages. Inside were drawings of dresses, imagined names, little notes like, "Maybe I'd be called Lily. I wish my reflection matched how I feel. Please, just one day as myself." Tears blurred Emma's vision. It wasn't about playing dress-up. It wasn't about rebellion. Daniel was crying out in silence. The sound of the front door slamming downstairs startled her. Michael was home early. Emma quickly replaced the box and notebook, hiding her discovery. Her heart pounded as she climbed down the ladder, trying to compose herself. That night at dinner, she looked across the table at Daniel. He was quiet, pushing peas around his plate, avoiding eye contact. Michael talked about bills, about overtime, about raising a son to be strong. And Emma knew this was the beginning of a secret she couldn't keep for long. The next morning, Emma could barely sleep. The words in Daniel's notebook replayed in her mind. "Please, just one day as myself." They weren't the kind of words a child wrote for fun. They were a plea. At breakfast, Daniel sat hunched over his cereal, hair falling into his eyes. Michael was already gone for work, leaving only the soft clink of spoons and the ticking of the kitchen clock. Emma tried to speak casually. "So, you've been drawing a lot lately?" she asked. Daniel's spoon froze midair. He looked at her carefully, almost suspiciously. "Yeah, just random stuff." Emma forced a smile. "You've always been good at drawing. Maybe you'll be an artist like Aunt Claire." Daniel's lips twitched, like he wanted to smile but didn't trust it. He shrugged and went back to his cereal. The silence between them felt heavy. That afternoon, Emma called Claire again. She told her about the notebook, her voice trembling. Claire was quiet at first, then said, "Emma, this isn't just dress-up. This is identity. You need to give Daniel a safe space. Let him know he's not broken." "But what about Michael?" Emma whispered, pacing the living room. "You know how he is. He'll think I'm encouraging something unnatural." "Then you need to choose," Claire said firmly, "between protecting your child's happiness or protecting Michael's pride." Emma knew her sister was right. Still, the thought of standing against her husband made her stomach twist. That evening, as she tucked Daniel into bed, she sat on the edge of his mattress. "Sweetheart," she said softly, brushing his hair back. "I want you to know something. You can tell me anything. Anything at all. And I'll love you just the same." Daniel froze, clutching his blanket. His small voice cracked. Even if it's something Dad wouldn't like?" Emma's chest ached. "Yes, especially then." Daniel turned his face into the pillow, silent tears soaking the fabric. Emma waited, heart racing, until finally he whispered, "Mom, I don't think I'm supposed to be a boy." The words hung in the air, fragile but unstoppable. Emma pulled him into her arms, his small frame shaking against her. "I know, honey," she whispered back. "I know." But neither of them realized that Michael, back early from work again, had paused in the hallway. He couldn't hear the full conversation, but he caught enough: Daniel's muffled sobs, Emma's soothing tone. His jaw tightened. Downstairs, he poured himself a drink, muttering under his breath. Something wasn't right in this house. And in that moment, Emma's worst fear was beginning to take shape. The next morning, Michael's mood was darker than the clouds gathering outside. He barely touched his coffee, his eyes narrowing on Daniel, who sat quietly at the table drawing in his notebook. "What are you working on there, son?" Michael asked, his voice sharp in a way that made Daniel flinch. Daniel snapped the notebook shut. "Nothing. Just doodles." Michael's eyes lingered on the notebook, suspicion burning, but he didn't push further. Instead, he looked at Emma, who busied herself with the dishes, refusing to meet his gaze. Later, when Daniel left for school, Michael cornered Emma in the kitchen. "Something's going on with him," he said flatly. "I heard you last night. What are you hiding from me?" Emma's pulse quickened. She dried her hands slowly, choosing her words. "He's sensitive, Michael. He's struggling with who he is. That's all." Michael's brow furrowed. "He's 11. He doesn't get to decide who he is yet. He needs discipline, not confusion." Emma wanted to shout, but she bit her tongue. She knew pushing too hard would backfire. Instead, she forced calm into her voice. "What he needs is understanding. If we push him, we could lose him." Michael's jaw tightened, but before he could reply, his phone buzzed. Work was calling. He grabbed his jacket, muttering, "We'll talk about this later." As soon as he left, Emma called Claire again. Her sister's voice was her anchor. "You can't let Michael scare you into silence," Claire said firmly. "Daniel needs you more than ever. He's testing the waters. If he feels rejected now, he'll close himself off completely." That evening, Claire showed up at the house with a canvas tote bag. When Daniel ran to greet her, she ruffled his hair. "Hey, kiddo. I brought you something." Daniel's eyes widened as she pulled out a sketch pad and a set of colored pencils. "Thought you could use something a little bigger than that notebook of yours." Daniel hugged her so tightly she laughed. But when he flipped through the first pages, he froze. At the bottom corner of the first sheet was a small, handwritten note from Claire. "Draw who you really are. Don't be afraid." Daniel looked up at her, his eyes shimmering, but he didn't say a word. That night, after Michael had gone to bed, Emma peeked into Daniel's room. He was fast asleep, the sketch pad open on his desk. She crept closer, her breath catching when she saw the drawing. It wasn't of monsters or superheroes like before. It was of a girl. A girl with long flowing hair, wearing a simple dress, smiling shyly at the world. And underneath, in careful handwriting, one word: Lily. Emma pressed a hand to her mouth, tears pooling in her eyes. Daniel had chosen his name. But in the hallway outside, Michael stirred, awakened by the creak of the floorboards. He glanced at the light under Daniel's door, his suspicion deepening. The storm was coming, and Emma knew she had only moments left to protect her child's fragile truth. The rain came down hard the next morning, streaking the windows as if the sky itself shared Emma's unease. Michael had left early for work, but Emma couldn't shake the feeling that the walls were closing in. She glanced at Daniel's desk before waking him for school. The sketch pad was still there, left open to the drawing of the girl labeled Lily. Emma carefully closed it, terrified of what would happen if Michael ever saw. At breakfast, Daniel looked unusually quiet. He picked at his toast, then asked in a whisper, "Mom, if I told Dad the truth, would he hate me?" Emma's heart twisted. She reached across the table, holding his small hand. "Your father loves you, but sometimes grown-ups get scared when they don't understand. That's why, maybe we should keep this between us and Aunt Claire for now." Daniel nodded, eyes shining with unshed tears. "It's just, when I draw Lily, I feel like me. Not like I'm pretending. Like I finally exist." Emma hugged him tightly, her promise silent but fierce. She would protect that existence at any cost. But Michael wasn't as blind as Emma hoped. That evening, he came home earlier than expected. He dropped his muddy boots by the door and went upstairs, muttering about checking on his boy. Emma's stomach sank. She followed too late. Michael had already found the sketch pad. "What's this?" he barked, flipping it open to the drawing of Lily. "Emma, have you seen this?" Emma froze. Daniel stood in the doorway of his room, pale as chalk. Michael's hand gripped the sketch pad like evidence of a crime. "It's just art," Emma said quickly. "Kids draw all kinds of things." Michael cut her off. "This isn't just art. This is sick. A boy drawing himself as a girl." His voice thundered through the hallway. "What are you teaching him, Emma?" Daniel's lip trembled, but before he could speak, Emma stepped forward, placing herself between father and son. "I'm teaching him to be himself," she said, her voice shaking but firm. Michael's eyes blazed. "He's a boy. He'll learn to be a man." End of discussion. He slammed the sketch pad shut and stormed downstairs, leaving a trail of anger in his wake. Daniel's small hands clutched Emma's sleeve. "He hates me," he whispered. "No, sweetheart," Emma said, though her voice cracked. "He's just scared. But listen to me, your name is Lily, and I see you. Always." That night, long after Michael had fallen asleep in the living room chair, Emma dialed Claire with trembling fingers. "We can't wait anymore," she whispered. "If Michael keeps pushing, he'll crush Lily before she even has a chance to grow." Claire's voice was steady, almost defiant. "Then we don't let him. We give Lily a place where she can bloom. Let her spend the weekend with me. I'll show her she's not alone." Emma closed her eyes, relief flooding through her. The storm inside the Carter household was far from over, but for the first time, she had a plan. And somewhere in her heart, she believed Lily's story was only just beginning. Friday afternoon arrived like a secret countdown. Michael left for an overnight job at a construction site, muttering about real work and keeping order in the house. Emma pretended not to hear the edge in his words. As soon as his truck rumbled down the street, Emma hurried upstairs. Lily was waiting, perched on the edge of her bed, clutching her sketch pad to her chest. "Is it time?" she asked in a hushed voice. Emma nodded. "Aunt Claire's expecting us. Pack a few things, sweetheart." When they arrived at Claire's loft in the city, Lily's eyes widened. The space was filled with colors, paintings stacked against walls, fabrics draped over chairs, a mannequin in the corner dressed in a half-finished gown. Claire swept her niece into a hug the moment she walked through the door. "My little artist," Claire said warmly. "Welcome home." Lily blinked up at her, startled. "Home?" Claire smiled. "Anywhere you're free to be yourself is home." After dinner, Claire brought out a large box. "I thought we could play a little game," she said, winking at Emma. Inside were clothes, skirts, soft tops, a cardigan, even a pair of flats in Lily's size. Nothing extravagant, just simple, gentle choices. Lily's breath caught. Her trembling hands reached for a pale yellow sundress. She held it against her chest, as if it were spun from sunlight itself. "Go on," Claire urged. Emma followed Lily into the bathroom, helping her change. When Lily stepped out, the dress hanging neatly on her frame, Emma gasped. Not because she looked transformed into someone else, but because she finally looked like herself. Claire clapped her hands, her eyes shining. "There she is. There's Lily." Lily spun in a shy circle, the hem fluttering. For the first time, she giggled without holding back, a sound Emma realized she hadn't heard in months. The rest of the evening was filled with little firsts. Claire showed Lily how to braid her hair with colorful ribbons. They painted nails a soft pink, Lily holding her hands stiff and serious until the polish dried. They even took a few Polaroids, Lily beaming nervously at the camera. Later, curled up on the couch with a blanket, Lily whispered to her mother, "I feel real here. Like I don't have to pretend." Emma kissed her forehead. "That's because you're real, sweetheart. Don't ever forget it." But as the city lights flickered outside the loft windows, Emma's phone buzzed on the table. A message from Michael. "Be home tomorrow night. We need to talk about Daniel. No more games." Emma's stomach turned cold. The fragile piece of the weekend was already under threat. And she knew that once Michael returned, the world Lily had just tasted might be torn away. The following evening, the loft was warm with laughter. Claire had pulled out her old record player, and the three of them were dancing clumsily to a scratchy vinyl. Lily twirled in her sundress, her hair ribbon bouncing as she laughed until her sides hurt. For the first time in years, Emma thought, her child looked light. Then came the knock. Hard. Unmistakable. Emma's blood froze. She hadn't heard Michael's truck, but when Claire pulled back the curtain, her worst fear stood on the street below. Michael. Arms crossed. Jaw tight. He wasn't supposed to be back until midnight, Emma whispered, panic seizing her chest. Claire steadied her. "You can't hide forever, Em. You'll have to face him." Lily's smile had vanished. She stood frozen in the middle of the loft, the yellow dress glowing like a spotlight. "Mom, what do I do?" Emma knelt quickly, gripping Lily's shoulders. "You stay behind me, sweetheart. No matter what happens, you don't apologize for being you. Do you hear me?" The pounding on the door grew louder. "Emma, open up." Michael's voice thundered through the hallway. "I know you're in there." Claire opened the door just enough to block his entrance. "She's not ready to talk to you like this, Mike." Michael shoved past her, his eyes immediately locking onto Lily. The sight of his child in a sundress made his face darken with something between confusion and fury. "What the hell is this?" he demanded, voice cracking like a whip. "Emma, what have you done to my son?" Emma stepped forward, shielding Lily. "She's not your son. She's your daughter." The room went silent except for the pounding rain outside. Michael's fists clenched at his sides. "Don't feed me this nonsense. Daniel is a boy. And you," he jabbed a finger at Emma. "You've been poisoning him with this garbage. Stop." Lily's voice rang out, high and trembling but clear. She stepped from behind her mother, clutching the hem of her dress. "Dad, it's not Mom. It's me. This is who I am." Michael's eyes softened for a fraction of a second, but then hardened again. No, you don't get to say that. You're confused. This is sick." Claire stood her ground. "What's sick is denying your child's truth." Michael looked around the room as though the walls themselves were betraying him. He shook his head violently. "You're all against me. But I won't let this happen. Not in my house." He stormed out, slamming the door so hard the glass rattled. Lily collapsed onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. Emma and Claire rushed to her, holding her as sobs racked her small body. Through her own tears, Emma whispered, "It's going to be okay, sweetheart. He doesn't understand yet. But one day, he will." Still, in her heart, Emma knew this was only the beginning of a battle that could tear their family apart or rebuild it into something stronger. The house was colder than usual when Emma and Lily returned home on Sunday evening. Michael's truck was in the driveway, but the lights inside were dim, only the flicker of the television casting shadows on the living room walls. Emma squeezed Lily's hand. "Go upstairs, sweetheart. Start on your homework." Lily obeyed without a word, her shoulders hunched as if bracing for impact. Michael muted the TV when Emma entered the room. His face was unreadable, but his silence was louder than any shouting. Finally, he spoke, his voice low and steady. "I called a lawyer." Emma's breath caught. "What?" Michael leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "If you keep pushing this nonsense, I'll fight for custody. Daniel belongs with me, not with someone who's turning him into." "Stop." Emma's voice cracked, but she forced herself to hold his gaze. "She's not Daniel. She's Lily. And this isn't something I'm pushing. It's who she is. Michael stood abruptly, pacing like a caged animal. You think some sketchpad and a weekend in dresses changes biology? He's a boy, Emma. A boy. And the longer you play along, the harder you make it for him to grow out of this phase. Emma's tears welled, but her voice sharpened. It's not a phase. Did you even see her face when she was free? Did you see her laugh, Michael? She's never looked that alive in her whole life. For a moment, Michael faltered, but the wall around him quickly slammed back into place. He turned away, muttering, I won't watch my son be destroyed by this madness. Upstairs, Lily sat on her bed, knees pulled to her chest. She couldn't hear every word, but she didn't need to. The heavy silence after each exchange told her everything. Later that night, Emma found her daughter still awake, the sketch pad open on her lap. This time, Lily hadn't drawn a girl. She'd drawn two figures, one tall and shadowy, looming above a smaller girl in a yellow dress. Above it, she had written in shaky letters, He wants to erase me. Emma's heart shattered. She knelt beside Lily, pulling her into her arms. He'll never erase you, she whispered fiercely. Not while I'm here. Not while Aunt Claire is here. You're not alone. But deep down, Emma knew Michael wasn't bluffing about custody. His anger wasn't just words anymore, it was action. And the battle for Lily's future had only just begun. By midweek, the tension in the Carter household was unbearable. Michael barely spoke to Emma, and when he did, it was short, clipped sentences. He no longer called Daniel by name, just boy or son. Lily felt the sting in every word, each one a reminder that her father refused to see her. On Thursday evening, Emma came home from grocery shopping to find a stranger sitting in the living room, a stern woman with a briefcase and a polished blazer. Michael stood behind her, arms folded. This is Ms. Harland, Michael announced. Family counselor. She's here to help straighten things out. Emma's stomach dropped. She set the bags down slowly. Without telling me? Michael's jaw tightened. You left me no choice. This confusion has gone on long enough. Miss Harland gave a polite smile, but her eyes were sharp. I'd like to speak with Daniel privately. Emma's protective instincts flared. No, she said firmly. Not without me. Michael's face darkened. Emma. But before he could finish, Claire walked through the door, having been invited by Emma earlier for backup. She took one look at the scene, set her art supplies on the counter, and crossed her arms. Funny, Claire said coolly. You bring in a stranger without permission, but when Emma tries to give her own child safety, you call it betrayal? Michael's cheeks flushed with anger. Stay out of this, Claire. But Claire didn't move. Instead, she crouched in front of Lily, who had crept halfway down the stairs. Sweetheart, do you want to talk to this lady? Lily shook her head quickly, clutching the railing. Her voice was barely a whisper. I don't want to talk to anyone but Mom or you. Emma stood taller, her fear hardening into steel. You heard her. She doesn't want this. Miss Harland closed her briefcase with a snap. If you refuse counseling, the court will see this as obstruction. Emma's heart pounded, but she met the woman's gaze head-on. Then let the court see it. Because I'll never let anyone make my child feel like she's wrong for being herself. The counselor left, muttering something about recommendations to the judge. Michael's glare lingered, heavy with unspoken threats. When the door finally shut, Lily ran into Emma's arms, trembling. Mom, what's going to happen to me? Emma kissed her forehead, fighting tears. Nothing bad. I promise. Not while I'm breathing. Claire rested a hand on Emma's shoulder, her voice low but certain. Then we fight. With lawyers, with allies, with truth. If Michael wants a war, he's about to see we don't fight alone. And in that moment, Emma knew the time for hiding was over. The line had been drawn, and she would stand on Lily's side no matter the cost. By the weekend, Emma had made her decision. No more waiting, no more hoping Michael would come around on his own. She called a family lawyer recommended by Claire's friends in the city, a woman named Marissa Vega, who specialized in custody battles and children's rights. When Emma explained everything over the phone, her voice trembling, Marissa's response was calm but firm. You're not the first mother to face this. If your daughter wants to live as herself, we'll make sure she's protected. But you need evidence, proof that Lily's well-being depends on your support. That night, Emma told Lily. She expected fear, but instead Lily's eyes lit up with something she hadn't seen before: hope. Does that mean I don't have to hide anymore? Lily whispered. Emma stroked her hair. It means we'll fight so you never have to. The next day, Claire took Emma and Lily into the city for a normal outing. Not a secret weekend, not hidden behind closed doors, just one day where Lily could be Lily outside the house. At first, Lily was terrified. She wore a simple denim skirt, a pale blue hoodie, and sneakers Claire had picked up just for her. Her hair was brushed carefully, a ribbon tied at the side. As they walked down the busy street, she clung to Emma's arm, her face buried. But then they entered a small cafe near Claire's studio. The young barista, barely out of college, leaned over the counter with a warm smile. "And what's your name, sweetheart?" she asked gently. Lily froze. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. She looked at Emma, panic in her eyes. Emma squeezed her hand. "It's okay, honey. Tell her." Lily swallowed hard, then whispered, "L. Lily." The barista's smile widened. "That's a beautiful name. What can I get you, Lily?" Something in the way she said it, the ease, the normalcy, made Lily's shoulders relax. She ordered hot chocolate, her voice still small but steadier than before. When they sat down at a corner table, Lily wrapped her hands around the warm mug, her eyes shining. "She called me Lily, like it was real." Emma kissed her cheek. "Because it is real." For the rest of the afternoon, Lily laughed freely. They browsed a bookstore, tried on silly hats at a thrift shop, and sketched people in the park. Every time someone called her Lily, a little more of her fear melted away. But as the sun set, Emma's phone buzzed with another message from Michael. "I know what you're doing. You won't get away with it. The court will side with me." Emma's hands shook as she read it. Claire leaned over, reading the text, then looked her in the eye. "Let him threaten. The more he tries to control, the more he proves you're right." Emma glanced at her daughter, her Lily, smiling in the fading light, sketching a girl twirling in a park dress. For the first time, Emma believed they might actually win. But she also knew Michael wouldn't go down quietly. The following Monday, a knock echoed through the Carter household. Emma opened the door to find a man in a suit holding a thin envelope. "Mrs. Carter?" "Yes, you've been served." He handed her the envelope and left without another word. Emma's hands trembled as she closed the door. Inside the envelope were the papers she had feared. Michael had officially filed for temporary custody. His claim: parental neglect and psychological harm. Emma sank into a chair, her chest tight. Lily, sitting at the kitchen counter with her sketch pad, looked up. "Mom? What's wrong?" Emma forced a smile she didn't feel. "Nothing you need to worry about, sweetheart." But her tears betrayed her. Claire arrived within the hour. When she read the papers, she swore under her breath. "He's moving fast. He wants to scare you into backing down." Emma shook her head. "He won't scare me. Not anymore." That evening, Marissa, the lawyer, met with them at Claire's loft. She spread the papers across the dining table, her eyes sharp. "I've seen this tactic before. He's claiming you're unfit because you encourage delusions. But we can turn this around. What matters is Lily's well-being. We'll show the court she thrives as herself." Lily sat quietly at the end of the table, her small hands folded. "Does this mean Dad doesn't want me anymore?" Emma's throat closed, but she managed. "It means Dad doesn't understand yet. But we're going to make sure the court knows who you really are." Marissa leaned closer to Lily, her voice gentle. "Sweetheart, do you want the judge to know your real name?" Lily hesitated, then nodded firmly. "Yes, I want them to know I'm Lily." Emma felt pride swell inside her. Her daughter wasn't just hiding anymore, she was standing up. The next day, Michael barged into the house unannounced, slamming the door behind him. His face was red, his voice booming. "You think you can beat me in court? You're filling our kid's head with garbage, Emma. You're destroying him." Lily stood in the doorway to the living room, fists clenched. Her voice shook, but she shouted back, "I'm not him." I'm Lily. The words cracked through the room like lightning. Michael froze, his fury caught off guard by the sheer force of her declaration. But instead of softening, his eyes hardened even more. If you keep this up, he growled, pointing at Emma, you'll never see him again. He stormed out, the door rattling in its frame. Emma gathered Lily into her arms. Don't listen to him, she whispered, though her own heart was pounding. We're going to fight. And we're going to win. But she knew the truth. The battle had truly begun. And Michael would do everything in his power to silence Lily's voice. The courtroom felt colder than winter. Emma sat at the plaintiff's table with Marissa, her lawyer, while Michael loomed at the other side, flanked by his attorney, a tall man with a slick voice and sharper suit. Lily sat between Emma and Claire in the gallery, her small hands twisting nervously in her lap. The judge, a woman with kind but stern eyes named Judge Reynolds, entered and called the session to order. Michael's lawyer spoke first. His words dripped with confidence. Your Honor, this case is about a mother encouraging delusions. Our client's son, Daniel Carter, is being forced into believing he is a girl. This is harmful, confusing, and dangerous for his development. Mr. Carter is simply trying to protect his child. Emma's blood boiled, but she held still, squeezing Marissa's hand beneath the table. When it was Marissa's turn, her voice was steady and resolute. Your Honor, this case is not about forcing anyone into anything. It is about listening to a child's voice. Daniel, who wishes to be called Lily, has expressed consistently, repeatedly, and joyfully that she is a girl. To deny her truth would cause immeasurable harm. Michael shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his eyes flicking toward Lily. Then came the part Emma dreaded. The judge requested to speak with Lily directly, in a private chamber. Emma wanted to object, but Marissa placed a calming hand on her arm. Trust her, she whispered. Inside the judge's chamber, Lily sat nervously across from Judge Reynolds. The room was smaller, warmer, lined with shelves of books. Sweetheart, Judge Reynolds said softly, can you tell me in your own words how you feel? Lily swallowed hard, her voice trembling. My name isn't Daniel. It never felt right. My name is Lily. When I get to be Lily, I feel real. Happy. Like I belong. The judge tilted her head kindly. And when you're not Lily? Lily's eyes filled with tears. It feels like I disappear. Like I'm not allowed to exist. Judge Reynolds leaned back, studying her quietly. After a moment, she nodded. Thank you for being brave enough to tell me. When the session resumed, Judge Reynolds announced her temporary order. Until a final ruling is made, custody will remain joint. However, I instruct both parents to refrain from punishing or silencing the child's self-expression. This court recognizes that the child has clearly articulated an identity, and that identity must be respected during these proceedings. Michael's face went pale, then flushed red. He slammed a hand against the table, earning a sharp warning from the bailiff. Emma, on the other hand, felt relief surge through her. It wasn't the final victory, but it was a crack of light in a long tunnel. When the hearing ended, Lily clung to Emma's side. She called me a child, not a boy, Lily whispered, smiling through tears. She listened. Emma hugged her tightly. That's because your voice matters, sweetheart. And it's only the beginning. But as they walked out of the courthouse, Michael stood on the steps, his glare dark and unyielding. He leaned in just enough for Emma to hear his words. This isn't over. You may have won today, but I'll make sure you lose everything. Emma pulled Lily closer. For the first time, she didn't cower. She met Michael's glare with steel in her eyes. No, she whispered back. We're just getting started. The days after the hearing were tense, but oddly lighter. For the first time, Lily no longer had to hide at home. She wore her skirts and ribbons freely, sketching in the living room without fear of her father barging in to snatch the paper away. The temporary order was a fragile shield, but it gave Emma and her daughter something they hadn't felt in months: breathing room. Michael, however, was unraveling. He came home angrier, his words sharper. Every time he saw Lily in a dress, his jaw clenched until veins stood out in his neck. But the court's order tied his hands, and that only made his fury burn hotter. One evening, after dinner, he finally snapped. "This is ridiculous," he barked, pacing the kitchen. "The judge has no idea what she's doing. I won't stand here and watch my son paraded around like this." Emma stood her ground, voice calm but steady. "She's not your son. She's your daughter. And the judge saw that. Why can't you?" Michael slammed his fist on the table, making Lily jump. "Because I'm not weak, Emma. I won't let this family be humiliated." Lily fled upstairs, tears streaking her face. Emma's heart ached, but before she could follow, Claire, who had been visiting, stepped between them. "You think strength is scaring a child?" Claire shot back. "You're not protecting her. You're destroying her." Michael's face twisted with rage. "Stay out of this, Claire." But instead of backing down, Claire pulled out her phone. "No, this time, I'm not staying out of it." She tapped the screen and raised her voice. "Emma, you need witnesses. Recordings. Proof of how he treats Lily." Michael lunged forward, snatching for the phone, but Emma grabbed his arm. "Stop it. You're making it worse for yourself." For a split second, Michael froze, realizing too late that his reaction was the evidence. Claire's phone blinked red, recording every second. The next morning, Marissa listened to the audio in her office. She raised an eyebrow, her lips curling into a determined smile. "This," she said, "changes everything. Courts don't like parents who explode like this, especially when the child is terrified in the background." Emma exhaled, a weight lifting. "So this could help us?" Marissa nodded. "If Michael keeps this up, he'll dig his own grave." "But Emma," she leaned forward, serious now, "you need to be prepared. Men like him don't lose gracefully. He'll push harder before he breaks." That evening, Lily curled up beside Emma on the couch, sketchpad in hand. She drew a girl standing tall on a hilltop, the sun rising behind her. Underneath, in bold letters, she wrote, "I'm still here." Emma kissed her hair, whispering, "Yes, sweetheart. You are. And you always will be." But outside, in his truck parked at the curb, Michael sat alone in the dark, gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. His face was red, his breathing harsh. If he couldn't win in court, he was already planning what he'd do next. Saturday morning dawned gray and heavy, but inside the Carter home Lily was humming softly while sketching at the kitchen table. Emma watched her daughter's focus, the way she held her pencil delicately, the way her hoodie sleeves brushed the paper. For a moment, it felt almost normal. Then came the sound of tires screeching in the driveway. Emma's heart sank. Michael was home early. He burst through the door, his face wild with determination. "Get ready," he barked. "You're coming with me." Emma stepped forward, instantly protective. "What are you talking about?" Michael held up a folded sheet of paper, his hands shaking with adrenaline. "I don't care what some judge says. I'm taking Daniel with me. Away from this poison." Lily froze, eyes wide. "Dad," she whispered, but her voice cracked. Emma's voice rose, firm but trembling with fear. "You can't just take her. That's kidnapping, Michael." Michael snarled. "It's called saving my son. And if you won't do what's right, I will." He lunged forward, grabbing Lily by the arm. Lily screamed, instinctively pulling away. The sound cut through Emma like glass. "Let her go," Emma shouted, shoving herself between them. Claire, who had been upstairs sorting laundry, thundered down the stairs and snapped open her phone camera, recording in one swift motion. Michael's grip faltered under the lens of that tiny red dot. He swore under his breath and let go, backing up a step. "You think this little game will last forever?" he spat. "You're filling his head with lies. And when this ends, you'll both regret it." He stormed out, slamming the door so hard the walls shook. Lily collapsed into Emma's arms, sobbing uncontrollably. "He was going to take me," she gasped. "He was really going to take me." Emma stroked her daughter's hair, her own tears falling freely. "I won't let him. I swear on everything I won't let him." That afternoon, Marissa met them at the loft. After seeing the video Claire had captured, she exhaled slowly. "This isn't just anger anymore. This is a threat. I'm filing for an emergency protective order." The judge needs to see this before Michael goes too far. Emma sat with Lily later that night, watching her daughter draw again. This time, Lily sketched a girl behind a locked door, with a mother standing guard outside. Above the door, she wrote, "Safe because of you." Emma kissed her daughter's forehead, whispering, "Always." But as she tucked Lily into bed, Emma knew Michael wasn't finished. He had crossed one line today, and tomorrow, he might cross another. By Monday morning, the courthouse buzzed with urgency. Marissa had filed the motion for an emergency protective order, and Judge Reynolds had agreed to hear the case immediately. Emma clutched Lily's hand as they entered the courtroom, Claire walking close behind like a shield. Michael was already there, pacing near his attorney, his face pale, but burning with defiance. When Emma and Lily walked in, his eyes flicked to the camera in Claire's purse, then to Lily's skirt. He muttered something under his breath, jaw tightening. The hearing began quickly. Marissa stood, her voice steady. "Your Honor, last week you issued a temporary order instructing both parents not to interfere with the child's self-expression. Despite that, Mr. Carter attempted to forcibly remove Lily from her home. We have video evidence of the incident." Gasps rippled through the gallery as Claire's recording played on the courtroom screen. Michael's raised voice, his grip on Lily's arm, her terrified screams, it was all there, undeniable. Judge Reynolds leaned forward, her expression grave. "Mr. Carter, do you deny this is you in the recording?" Michael's attorney jumped in. "Your Honor, my client acted out of concern. He feared for his child's welfare." "By forcibly dragging her out of her home?" Judge Reynolds cut in sharply. "That is not concern. That is coercion. And it will not be tolerated." Michael sat rigid, his knuckles white against the table. Then Judge Reynolds turned to Lily. "Lily, sweetheart, would you be willing to speak with me again?" Lily glanced at Emma, who gave her a gentle nod. Slowly, Lily stood, walking toward the witness chair. She sat down, her small hands trembling, but her chin lifted bravely. The judge's voice softened. "Lily, do you feel safe with your father right now?" Tears welled in Lily's eyes. She swallowed hard. "No, not when he's angry. Not when he tries to make me be someone I'm not." "And who are you, Lily?" the judge asked gently. Her voice wavered, but did not break. "I'm a girl. My name is Lily. I've always been Lily. And I just want to live without being afraid." The courtroom fell silent. Even Michael's attorney shifted uncomfortably. Emma and Claire sat frozen, tears slipping down their cheeks. Judge Reynolds nodded slowly, her expression softening. "Thank you, Lily. That took a lot of courage." Then, turning to the court, she declared, "Effective immediately, Mr. Carter is barred from unsupervised contact with the child. Temporary primary custody is awarded to Mrs. Carter until further review. This court will not allow intimidation or force to dictate a child's life." Emma exhaled a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Relief washed over her, but she knew this wasn't the end, only a crucial victory in a longer war. Michael, meanwhile, sat in stunned silence. For the first time, his power was slipping. He muttered under his breath, "This isn't over," but it sounded more like desperation than certainty. As they left the courthouse, reporters who had caught wind of the emergency hearing called out questions. Claire ushered them past, shielding Lily. But in the car, Lily whispered with a shy smile, "The judge called me Lily." She didn't even hesitate. Emma kissed her daughter's forehead. "That's because it's your name. And no one can take that away from you." The days following the emergency hearing felt like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. Lily began to smile more freely, sketching bright dresses and happy faces instead of shadowy figures. Emma allowed her daughter small freedoms, wearing her favorite skirt to the grocery store, painting her nails soft pink before bedtime. For the first time in months, Lily was breathing. But Michael wasn't finished. Late Friday evening, as Emma and Lily returned from Claire's loft, Michael was waiting in the driveway. His truck blocked the carport, his silhouette rigid under the streetlight. Emma's stomach twisted. "Stay in the car," she told Lily, locking the doors before stepping out. Michael's voice was low but charged with desperation. "You think you've won, Emma? You think some judge and a few videos make you right? Emma kept her voice steady. I don't think it. I know it. The court sees Lily for who she is even if you refuse to. Michael shook his head, his eyes wild. You've poisoned her. Filled her head with lies. But I can fix this. I can still fix this. He lunged toward the car door, yanking the handle. It wouldn't open. Lily screamed inside, pounding the window with her fists. Michael, stop. Emma cried, rushing forward. Claire, who had followed them home, pulled out her phone again, recording. You touch that door and you'll never see her again, not even supervised, she shouted. For a moment, Michael froze, caught in the headlights' glare like a trapped animal. His chest heaved, his fists clenched, but then something inside him seemed to break. His shoulders slumped, his rage giving way to hollow exhaustion. He stepped back from the car, his voice cracking for the first time. She's my son. My only son. And now she's gone. Emma's heart softened despite herself. You haven't lost her, Michael. You just refuse to see who she really is. The longer you fight her truth, the further away you push her. Police sirens wailed in the distance. Claire had already dialed them. Michael's eyes darted wildly, and for a moment, Emma thought he might run. Instead, he sank to his knees in the driveway, muttering broken words neither Emma nor Claire could understand. When the officers arrived, Emma held Lily tightly, shielding her from the flashing lights. The next day, Judge Reynolds issued a permanent protective order. Michael's custody rights were suspended indefinitely pending psychiatric evaluation. Back at home, Emma tucked Lily into bed. Her daughter clutched her sketch pad, a fresh drawing on the page, a girl standing tall, sun shining behind her, with her mother and aunt at her side. Above it, she had written, "Free." Emma kissed her forehead, tears in her eyes. Yes, sweetheart. You're free now. For the first time, she believed it. Spring returned to Brookfield with gentle breezes and budding flowers. The Carter home, once heavy with silence and tension, now echoed with laughter and the tapping of pencils against sketch pads. Lily sat cross-legged on the porch, sketching the cherry blossoms in full bloom. Her hair, a little longer now, was tied back with a blue ribbon. She wore her favorite sundress without fear, the sunlight dancing across her face. Mom, she called, grinning. Look, I almost got the shading right this time. Emma stepped out with 2 mugs of tea, smiling as she leaned over her daughter's shoulder. It's beautiful, sweetheart. Just like you. Life wasn't perfect, but it was safe. The court had granted Emma full custody, with Michael allowed only supervised visitation after completing counseling. He came occasionally, quieter than before, his fury replaced with something more subdued, confusion, maybe even regret. He hadn't called her Lily yet, but he also hadn't shouted in months. That, Emma decided, was a start. Claire had become even more of a constant presence. Her loft was now Lily's second home, filled with canvases of bright dresses and smiling faces. Together, they had even held a small gallery showing of Lily's sketches, anonymously, of course, but it gave Lily pride she carried like armor. At school, change had been slower. Emma had worked with the administration to allow Lily to use her chosen name in class. The first time her teacher said Lily during roll call, her daughter had nearly cried, but instead, she sat straighter in her chair, her smile unstoppable. That night, as they sat around Claire's table eating takeout, Lily asked, "Do you think other kids like me feel scared like I did?" Emma and Claire exchanged a glance. Emma answered softly, yes. But they also need someone to tell them they're not alone. From that night forward, the 3 of them began writing letters, anonymous notes of encouragement left at community centers, tucked into library books, even posted online. Words Lily once needed to hear herself. You are real. You are loved. You are not broken. A year had passed since Lily whispered her truth for the first time. Now, she shouted it without shame. She wasn't hiding in attics or sketch pads anymore. She was living, breathing, growing. On the porch, Emma wrapped an arm around her daughter's shoulders as the sun dipped low, painting the sky gold. Do you remember what you wrote in your notebook last year? Emma asked. The words, "If I were a girl?" Lily nodded, eyes soft. Emma kissed the top of her head. You don't have to write if anymore. You are a girl. You are Lily. And the world is finally learning to see it too. Lily closed her sketch pad, resting her head on her mother's shoulder, smiling at the horizon. For the first time, the future felt wide open and hers to claim.